What's up, Duke fans? We're back here with the Brotherhood podcast, episode 14 today. We have a very special guest in the building today, a Duke legend, an NBA legend, a broadcasting legend, Grant Hill. Thanks for being here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I feel like I've made it now. You got me on here. I've been a fan of your work and the interviews. You do a great job, and I appreciate being here.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, excited to have you on for as much time as we can get you for today. I know you're busy this weekend, but excited to hear about your time at Duke, your time in the NBA, both as a player and now as an executive, as an owner, and obviously all the other things you've done, including broadcasting and everything else. But if we could start briefly, you're back in town here for the Board of Trustees meeting. Can you take me through kind of what a weekend looks like when you all come back and what you're trying to accomplish?
Yeah, so Board of Trustees, my third year on the board, and it's an action-packed weekend, certainly a lot of items on the agenda. Friday, going into homecoming, Founders Weekend, we have a full day, and we'll start with President Price, the full board. He'll sort of give a state of the union, if you will, as the first semester starts, the first board meeting of the school calendar year. And just go over a number of issues that that are relevant to what's happening on campus, and then we'll get into a strategic session later in the morning, and we'll have a certain topic, and a lot of times we'll bring in faculty members, student athletes, sometimes students, speakers who might have a certain expertise on the subject matter. Then later in the afternoon, we'll have committee meetings. I'm on the governance committee and also on undergraduate education committee. And then we'll have a social event in the evening. And then Saturday, we'll have a half day. And so a lot of topics. Duke is quite the enterprise. There's a lot that goes into making this place so special. And we just try to provide oversight and some, accountability, direction, vision to President Price and his staff. And so it's a lot of fun, a lot of responsibility, but certainly an honor and a privilege to serve.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Jalen Blakes is talking, maybe, I don't know if you're in the specific group, but he said he's speaking Saturday morning. So keep an eye out for him if you could prep some tough questions for him.
I will, and that's why I said student athlete, because I knew Jalen was bringing his perspective of the student athlete experience.
Yeah, it's exciting. We're sending our best. So
all right.
I'm excited to hear your feedback. Outside of obviously that, it's a big football weekend for Duke. I assume it's one of the first times that you've come back and had, obviously the first time College Game Day, but just had this much buzz around the football program here. What does that feel like? I know you just mentioned you're going to stick around for the football game, which is awesome. And obviously your father was a pretty prolific football player. What does that kind of feel like after you've been around for Duke so long?
It's great. There's nothing, obviously Duke basketball, playing in Cameron. I mean, the magic here is incredible. You experienced it. I've experienced it. But there's also something really special when you have a good football experience, and I didn't necessarily have that my 4 years. I missed Steve Spurrier, who was the coach here at Duke prior to Florida, and had success. They were co-ACC champs, and then the former Duke football coach, Coach Cutcliffe, had some good years and some teams that went on and had some success in the bowl games, but. This season and Coach Elko and what he has done in just a short period of time, it's really incredible. Beating Clemson and just the excitement, I think, not just on campus, but I think in the entire sort of global Duke family, Duke community is pretty impressive. I was in Manila with the U.S. men's national team competing in the World Cup, and we were in our hotel in the morning in a space that we have designated for meals, and we have a television, and somehow we were able to stream the game. And Paulo Banchero, who obviously a great Duke player and a Duke legend, and but also a player who played on our team, he and I were watching in disbelief. I'm watching just as a a guy who's about to have his 30th reunion, just like in awe that we're competing against Clemson and beating them so convincingly. And he's watching because he knows all the guys on the team.
Yeah.
He came in with a lot of them were freshmen. Now they're upperclassmen. But even in that setting, it was pretty incredible. And to be here Saturday night to witness a victory against Notre Dame has me pretty fired up.
Yeah, no, it'd be awesome. It's just been fun to feel the buzz around campus for sure. And you mentioned, being in Manila with the team for the FIBA World Cup games. It's a good transition. We wanted to ask you a bunch of questions about that, obviously. Can you talk about that experience over there and kind of what the guys of the team learned?
Yeah, the experience was incredible. We were pretty much gone for 6.5 weeks. We started in Las Vegas with training camp early August. Had exhibition games for a week in Spain, then went to Abu Dhabi for a week, and then 3.5 weeks in Manila. And, there's something magical, almost sacred when you play on the international stage and you represent your country. And there's just a real sort of honor that goes with doing that, with putting yourself out there, risking, risking not winning. All these guys are NBA players. They're well paid. They're making a huge sacrifice. And we had a great group. We had a group that that did everything that was asked of them. We just came up short, and there's a lot of reasons, but no excuses. And I think you have to tip your hat to Germany and Canada and all these other teams that the game has really become a global game. And but I think our guys learned a great deal about through this experience, and I think are all better players as a result, and will be better if and when they get that opportunity to represent their country in FIBA competition in years to come. So, obviously it still hurts that we lost, but I remember Coach K, would say sometimes, the way you played was you were worthy of winning, and the way this group, players and coaches, approached this summer, they were worthy of winning. It just didn't happen. But, we'll regroup. And we have the Olympics in Paris next summer, and we have a lot more interest from a number of guys. So we'll put together a team that'll give us a chance for success.
Absolutely. Yeah, I didn't know how much information you could reveal. I wanted to ask what you think the possibilities are for Paris and about getting these, the LeBrons, the Kevin Durant's of the world. Do you think there's a shot that we have them play?
I think, first of all, what's really interesting is that I think we look at the Olympics as sort of the end-all, be-all. Mm-hmm. And the World Cup is not as important to us here in the country. I think the international players really value the World Cup. And maybe some of that has to do with the soccer influence. If you think about soccer,
absolutely,
the FIFA World Cup is probably more important and more significant than the Olympics in soccer. And so that influence, I think, really rubs off. And so there's never an issue of getting the top-notch guys to want to be a part of the Olympics, especially in Paris.
Yeah.
And for a lot of the guys, a lot of the, guys in their prime, guys maybe who are legacy guys, if you will, guys who are on the downside of their prime but still very talented and very capable, everyone has expressed interest. And so we'll see how that plays out. But certainly we will have a talented roster, and we'll give ourselves a chance to win gold.
Absolutely. And then when you think back to 96 when you won gold with Team USA, what kind of experiences do you remember that you try and bring to this team and to this era of USA basketball?
Yeah, 96, long time ago. And
Where
a lot
was
has
it? Where was
it was
it?
in Atlanta.
Oh, okay.
The Atlanta Olympics. Right. So a lot has changed since 1996. That 96 team had 6 original members of the Dream Team.
Okay.
We had, Barkley, Karl Malone, John Stockton, David Robinson. I know I'm missing one. Scottie Pippen. Yep. We had our bigs were David Robinson, Hakeem Olajuwon, and Shaquille O'Neal.
Pretty good.
I mean, it was
pretty good front court.
Pretty good front court. So there was never any concern or worry that we might not win. You know, it was just a matter of how much. And in all honesty, I think the real competition was in practice. You know, for me as the youngest guy in that team, I just finished my second year. You know, my other small forward was Scottie Pippen, who at the time was experienced, was a world champion, was a gold medalist already. So going against him every day in practice, there was no better competition for me personally. But I think because of the Dream Team in '92 and that success and that role they played as, you know, global ambassadors for the game, spreading the game, inspiring the next generation over time, and then really in a short period of time, fast forward to 2000, where it was a close game and a gold medal game in Australia, and then 2004 we lost in the Olympics, you know, against I think Argentina won that year. So you know, the game has changed. It's become more of a global game, and the FIBA game now is a very different game than our game. But back then, I mean, we were pretty dominant, and there was kind of a running joke. After every game, there was drug testing, and it seemed as though we all kind of figured out that the people who got drug tested, it was Karl Malone. He got drug tested after every game because he was big as that, and whoever the leading scorer was. Okay. And so no one wanted to be the leading scorer. So at the end of games and these blowouts, it's like hot potato. Everybody's passing the ball around, and you're thinking, oh man, these guys are so unselfish. No, nobody wanted to be drug tested. Not that they were doing anything, but just that the added time that went into the testing. No one wanted to wait another hour and a half to go through that process. So, but I think that just illustrates how dominant we were then, but also how the game has grown and how, you know, definitely the rest of the world has caught up.
Yeah, 100%. Let's transition into, I guess, go backwards a few years into your Duke days here. I have written down from help with our creative team that while you were here, obviously winning 2 national titles, people have said you guys were like the Beatles of college basketball. And I wasn't alive for you playing here or the Beatles, but wanted to ask what those days were like being at the height of college basketball at Duke.
Well, I wasn't alive for the Beatles either, but you know, it was incredible. But I'm not sure we understood sort of the significance of what was happening. It was a different time. There was, you know, no social media. There was no technology, or very limited technology back then. You know, we were kind of insulated from, you know, the good and I guess also the bad, you know, in terms of what comes with being a high-profile program, what comes with having success. So as dominant as those teams were and as magical as those times were, on campus, we were just, you know, we played basketball, but everybody kind of knew you. There was some normalcy. You went to class, you lived with people, you socialized. I think we got a taste of it when we went elsewhere, you know, and we would go on the road and you show up, you know, at Clemson, and there'd be 100 fans waiting at the hotel as we're getting off the bus, and you're like, what's going on here? And but it was an interesting time. I think really maybe the last sort of time in college basketball where you had great teams and players staying all 4 years. And shortly after that, players started to leave early and eventually even, you know, not even go to college at one point and go right to the NBA. And so, you know, if it was present day, I probably never would have played with Christian Laettner. And I never would have played with Bobby Hurley. So that experience and those years where people got a chance to watch us over multiple years, I think contributed to the, you know, hysteria, I guess, whatever you want to call it. But, you know, I was 18. We won our first championship. You know, Duke had been close. They lost in '86. They got to the Final Four in '88, '89, embarrassed in 1990. So there was this thought process and people thinking that, you know, Duke couldn't win the big one. And that was sort of a narrative that was out there. And so to win that, that first year and win the second year, and then to play with great players. I mean, I played with Christian Laettner, Bobby Hurley, two of the greatest college basketball. I mean, all three of us are in the College Basketball Hall of Fame.
Absolutely.
And so how we could all be so good at our games, at our position, but still also coexist and thrive together was really, really special. But yeah, I mean, on one hand, I think we just enjoyed the camaraderie, the brotherhood, the success, but there still was an innocence, and also, we were slightly unaware of sort of what was happening, this sort of groundswell of love and maybe even a little hate that came with that success there in the 90s.
Yeah. And you mentioned the two national championships. Obviously, what kind of things stand out to you about those teams that you would try and offer advice to our current team here? Obviously, it's always a goal in this program, but certainly a goal for us this year to hang up another banner.
Yeah, I said it's obviously it's very different back then. I think one of the things, the success of Duke basketball and the success of players, particularly players in recent years that are more relevant to you guys now. We're all kind of old guys that you see on a wall or maybe in a photo, but I think the noise, and what I mean by that is obviously there's social media. There's the noise of the future and what that means and what's ahead and the opportunities to play professionally. That was there maybe to a degree. It was much quieter back then, but I think with all the noise, you can become a bit selfish and sort of self-preservation. What's best for me, and I really do think the beauty of those teams and the beauty of those 4 years. Look, we lost my junior year to California. I remind Jason Kidd all the time that I had a broken toe, and that's why we lost to them. And then we lost in the finals to Arkansas. But every one of those years, it was the same approach, the same thought process, the same mentality, and really just buying into the team, and really not focusing on what I need to do. If I need to do that, I need to score this amount of points. I need to have this kind of success. Just whatever it takes to win. And that mindset, that mentality, if you can do that, there's a beauty and a joy. It's almost sacred when you have that environment. Everyone buying in, believing, doing whatever's necessary for the team. And I'll tell you a little story. I'm going to out my dad here a little bit, but my senior year, we had a very young backcourt. We had Jeff Capel was a freshman. Your former coach, Chris Collins, was a sophomore. Chris didn't play much his first year. We lost Bobby Hurley. We lost Thomas Hill. They graduated. And early in the season, Glenn Robinson, who played at Purdue, was the first pick in the draft, went to Milwaukee. He was a junior that year. He was averaging 30 points a game. I mean, incredible. He was scoring. 6'8", 6'9", strong, athletic, beautiful mid-range three-point shot, high release. He was scoring like you wouldn't believe. And I remember my dad called me in maybe early December, and he's like, hey, man, you're only averaging 16, 17 a game. You want to compete with him for National Player of the Year. And I was like, Dad, I want to win. And I know I need Chris Collins and I need Jeff Capel. I know down the road I'm going to need them for us to have a chance to win. And so fast forward, I think regular season champs in the ACC. We lose in the ACC tournament. We're in the regional finals and we're playing Purdue. Yeah. And I just saw Cherokee Park, so it was a funny story. So we beat Marquette in the Sweet 16 in Knoxville, Tennessee. And we sit and watch the first half of the next game, which was Purdue against Kansas. And in the first half, Glenn Robinson had 30 points in the first half, ended with 45 for the game. And so we're going to match up, and they're hyping the two of us going against each other. And so Cherokee and I, we were roommates on the road. And so the night before the game, I had the assignment of guarding him. So I'm in the hallway doing slides in the hotel, and he's getting me hyped up, and he's calling me the dog catcher. And because his nickname was Big Dog. But we went out and we held him to maybe 13 points, so much less than his 30-point average. But I got in foul trouble that game, and so Chris and Jeff and Tony and Cherokee, like, they carried us in those moments. I was out of the game late in the second half, and so to me, like, that mentality where it's like, what do I have to do to make my teammates better? Can I buy into what we're doing, but ultimately try to make my teammate, if they're down, pick them up. If they're struggling, help them, try to get the most out of it. When you win and you're worthy of winning, man, there's nothing better than that. And so I know that was a long-winded answer to your question, but I just think buying into each other and trying to get the most out of one another. If you do that, then you have a chance to be crowned a champion for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really resonate with what you were saying about the noise, because it's not, in my opinion, it's not really selfish to, that you see some guys. It's hard for ourselves and every other top program. You have these 18, 19-year-olds that have so much noise around them, and they have so many high-level aspirations, which isn't selfish, but it's hard to get that much buy-in. And a conversation I was having recently, I'm interested to get your take on, how many teams do you think are worthy, just maybe level of talent, and they have the returners, they have whatnot to win a national championship? How many college teams are worthy of it and can't put that piece together, and that's the reason they maybe don't go all the way? Is it 15 to 20 teams a year? Is it 10?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think it fluctuates year to year. I mean, I think it takes a number of things to have success and to win. I mean, obviously you have to have talent. You have to have the personnel. I think there's a spirit might not be the right word, but there's got to be just that collective sort of buy-in, pride, responsibility, love for the game. Like, there's just a spirit. You go in like I always say, you go in locker rooms, you can tell winning locker rooms. And when we cover in the NCAA tournament, you're around teams, you can feel certain teams. You see the talent, you see the coaching, but that spirit that I'm talking about is necessary. I think there's luck. You got to have you got to stay healthy, and it's hard because in the NBA, you lose the first game one in the series, you make adjustments.
Yeah.
And oftentimes the better team wins, over 7 games. But you have a bad half, a bad stretch, and it's over. So it takes a toughness, a mental toughness, which I think a regular season really prepares you for. So there's a number of things, and a lot I'm sure that I'm not mentioning as well. But I think when it's all said and done, I mean, and I know certain years there's greater parity than others, but I think it's smaller than 50. I think there's maybe, 4 to 8 teams that realistically have a chance to win. Everybody says they want to win, and but are they really capable? Are they really deserving? Have they really put in the work, made the sacrifice? I felt like when I was here for 4 years, everything we did was about winning a championship. Every practice, every stretch of games, we would talk about it, and I don't think a lot of my friends who played in other schools realistically talked about and believed and had this standard and had this expectation. It's win a championship or bust.
Yeah.
And so you felt like every year we had a chance.
Okay.
And unfortunately, we were able to win a few times.
Absolutely. Last question from your time at Duke, and I guess this goes on to afterwards as well, but can you just talk about the prevalence of the Brotherhood and what kind of effect that's had on you throughout, I guess, your career and life, but obviously you've been a main person around the program for so long. What kind of things does the Brotherhood mean to you?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it really started just when I arrived my freshman year, and guys who were older, guys who, as I say, put equity into the program, they were here. Johnny Dawkins, Dave Henderson, Danny Ferry, Robert Brickey, Allah Abdenabi. I mean, these guys, really kind of bought in, believed in Coach K, believed in the program, and made it attractive to want to come and be a part of. And but those relationships and the wisdom and the knowledge and what they shared with me when I was young, that was so important and really helpful in terms of just navigating, being a Duke basketball player.
Yeah.
And so, as you get older, you want to be able to, I guess, pay it forward, if you will. And so it was funny because, you leave here and then now you come back and you have guys you played with. And then, those guys age out. And then, like Coach Carrawell, I was around, we didn't play together, but I was like big brother, and then, then you kind of become like, like uncle, and now you're kind of like a grandfather, you're 30 years removed. But just to see that all these guys, we have commonality, whether you played here in the 80s, 90s, 2000s, now 2020, like we all are part of this. We're all connected. We're all family. We have this shared experience. And for us, there's this great pride in watching all of you and watching you guys compete, watching you guys have success, watching you just go through this experience. Yeah. We know how important and how special it was for us, and now you guys get to experience it on a whole other level. It's better, and it should be better. And so I guess pride is just the word that comes to mind. And, I'll come back to games and, I'll sit in Cameron and I'll watch. And, my arthritis kicks in a little bit. It's not very comfortable, but sometimes I'm there and I'm just like in disbelief that, like, wow, like this is amazing. Like this is incredible. And I got a chance to actually play in this. And now these kids get a chance to do this. Like, man, this is like I have to like sometimes like just like in the moment of the game, I'm taking it all in. Like I can't believe it, and so it really is special. And the Brotherhood's a real thing. And you have different stages of Brotherhood. We different generations, but I think we all share the same sort of love of Duke basketball and same. Just sense of family. I mean, that's what it's all about.
Yeah, absolutely. Wanted to move into a couple quick hitters for you.
Okay.
So quick answers here.
I'm long-winded, so my answers aren't typically quick, but I'll try.
Yeah. Favorite Duke game you played in?
I think our first championship against Kansas, bad haircut and all. Don't be too trendy when you're young because you regret it later in life. But that first championship, winning that championship, that was probably my favorite game.
Okay. Favorite arena/stadium to watch a basketball game in, any level?
I get to call the Final Four. I have the best seat in the house. I've been in every NBA arena as a spectator, as a broadcaster. I've been in a lot of great college venues, but there's nothing like Cameron. There's nothing Cameron is one of a kind.
Awesome. Your best performance in a Duke game? Or favorite, I guess.
My favorite performance. Okay, so my senior year we played at Virginia, and I'm from Virginia, so I had a lot of friends who were there, and maybe this is what I was talking about earlier, but about team and what it takes to win. We played at Virginia. I had 4 points. Senior year, but I felt like I dominated the game. Leadership, defensively, rebounding, facilitating. I enjoyed seeing my teammates thrive.
Yeah.
And so that was one of my favorite. Now I got criticized, and the media said, "Oh, Cornell Parker, he locked up Grant Hill. You kept him at 4 points." So I took care of that when we came back to Cameron, and I made sure I, scored a bunch of points on Cornell Parker. But to me, like that environment where, I can have an effect and an impact on the game without even scoring, like that was one of the games to me that stuck out, and I enjoyed the most.
Awesome. Next one will be a lot. It seems like people get worked up when we asked him, but all-time Duke starting five.
Man, can we say starting 8?
Sure. Yeah.
No, okay, starting five. Okay, first of all, I'm not on my starting five, so I'm a fan here. I think you have to start with Johnny Dawkins. He was the first big recruit that really kind of set off at least the Coach K era and got guys going. Christian Laettner, was as good and as accomplished as any. I mean, every big game he brought it and dominated. So I got to put Christian up there. I'll put Battier up there just because I recruited him. He lived in Detroit, so I was in his ear. He was actually a volunteer helper with the Pistons.
Wow.
So I knew Shane when he was a freshman in high school, and to watch him, become a great player in his whole career. He was great, spectacular during his time. Oh man. I'll throw JJ Redick just because he has a podcast and I don't want him talking about me. And he gets sensitive about that kind of stuff. And then I'll say Jay Williams. Now that's one era. Okay, so that's my 5 from like the old school guys. Okay. I think current day, Tatum, Zion, I'll put Paolo out there, Kyrie.
Yep.
Is that 5? Bagley?
One more Bagley.
Marvin Bagley was pretty spectacular.
What if those 5 played each other?
Oh, yeah, the old school guys.
Really?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Old age and treachery always,
right.
Always prevails.
Nice. I like that answer. Favorite road gym to play in college?
Maryland, Coalfield House.
Okay.
Yeah. Maryland wasn't that good back then. It was before Gary Williams really got it going, but I'm from the D.C. area. It was always fun to come up there and beat up on Maryland. And that was. I don't think Coalfield House is there anymore, but
it's the something Verizon Center.
Yeah,
Xfinity. I think.
That's right. They're in the Big Ten now. But Coalfield House, that was my favorite.
Yeah. Favorite moment from your professional career?
Favorite moment from my professional career? Wow, that's an interesting question. I think for me, the draft. And getting picked and shaking, Commissioner Stern's hand, like that was, there's so many games and the ups and downs and, it's hard to remember everything, but I just know that like that was an incredible moment for me. And, to know that I had arrived, but also that there was so much more in front of me at the time. That's something that when I think back on my NBA career, that's one of the first thing that comes to mind.
Last quick hitter, it's a big one. Favorite song by Tamia?
Favorite song by Tamia?
Yeah.
Oh, you putting me on the spot. I like You Put a Move on My Heart.
Okay.
And, there's other songs, and I like to think that I was the inspiration for some of the songs. That was a song that she sang before we met, but I think was really cool, and I was telling her about this the other day, that it's not often you can say, I remember the first time I ever saw you as an old couple. We've been married 24 years, together 27 years. I remember the first time I saw her, and it was that video.
Wow.
I didn't think I would marry her and have 2 kids. That wasn't the last thing on my mind. But I just, to be able to like go back and see that video and like the first, I asked her, do you remember the first time you ever saw me? And she couldn't answer it. And so I said, well, I remember. It was that video. And so anyway, that song is a great song and probably my favorite.
Awesome. Moving into the NBA, you mentioned draft. So After you get drafted, you play for 18 seasons until you're 40, 7 All-Star appearances. How did Duke prepare you for such a long and successful career in the league?
When my daughter, who's a senior in college, when she was maybe 10, she asked me once, like, Dad, why do I have to go to college? And, I the 3 things that came to mind, I was telling her, and she was way over her head, but I said, it teaches you how to think, it teaches you how to problem solve, and it teaches you how to endure. And I think those three qualities, both as a student and as an athlete here, playing basketball, I experienced that while I was here. We had great success as a team, but it was not easy. It was not easy in the classroom. There were moments, we were challenged, but those values, I think, prepared me not just for those 18 years, really 19 years, but they say 18, even though I was hurt that year. I didn't play, but anyway, on my bio it says 18 years. I was paid for 19, but anyway, I never quite understood that. But I had some highs that were incredible, and I had some lows that were really deep and dark. But to get through all of that, Duke. I learned how to defend, and I learned how to win, and certain fundamentals and all these things that obviously I call it the classroom of K. But I just think the totality of my Duke experience, because so much of it is what goes on off the court, and but just problem solving, learning how to think, and learning how to endure. Those values, I think, were really instilled in me during my 4 years at Duke, and helped me in my career and helped me in my post-career the last 10 years.
Absolutely. And you had a little bit of adversity after a couple of years in the league with some injuries, but still managed to play. Obviously 17 seasons. You just said 17, right? After
19.
19 for paid.
I didn't play. Yeah, I didn't play 1 year, and I don't know. It's crazy. I came in with Jason Kidd. I went out with Jason Kidd. He played 19. I played 18. I don't know how that works.
But anyway, you battled through this adversity with these injuries. Can you talk about that and kind of any advice you'd give to obviously basketball players, but any athletes in general, going through an injury such like that?
Yeah, it was tough. Look, I had a situation, had a number of injuries. Missed a good portion of 3-4 years. I had my fourth ankle surgery, and basically I had to have I have the scar here. I had to have a skin flap, and if I had a hole in my ankle, and if the flap didn't take, they would have to amputate. And so it got really, really bad, and there was a lot of uncertainty as to whether I'd play again or even be able to walk again and all that. And I think as you look back and reflect on your career, I do think the values that sport teaches you allows you to get through some of those setbacks and challenges. You've played at the highest level in college basketball. You always feel like you have a chance, and you go on the road and there's adversity. And, I always say every team has a story, and they have, you guys this year, you're writing your story, and your story is going to play out. But there's going to be moments. There's going to be situations. There's going to be team meetings. There's going to be adversity. And what happens in those moments a lot of times dictates the path you take. And, I feel like going through that as an athlete and experiencing and facing adversity and overcoming it sometimes and sometimes not, it prepares you when life hits you. And so foolishly, probably much like we were foolish to believe that we'd, execute this pass the full length of the court and beat Kentucky, foolishly, I thought I was going to get through. Like, I never doubted. And I just okay, we're going to figure this out. I'm going to come back. I'm going to play. And I'm telling you, when I was going through this in my late 20s, early 30s, I used to always say, I'm going to make up for it on the back end, and I'm going to play till I'm 40. And my last year in the NBA, I'm with the Clippers. My birthday's in October, training camp. The day I turned 40, my knee went out. And so I was true to my word. I should have said 45. I could have got an extra 4 or 5 years. But no, I think sports teaches you so much about life. And, you guys are in the midst of it right now. And when you're old and great like me, you'll look back and just, the games are obviously important, but what you learn from the experience, you'll take with you. There are more leaders who've been student athletes. There's more women in C-suites who are student athletes. I have 2 daughters. They're both athletes. One's a soccer player, one's an MMA. That's a whole nother story. But, I'm so grateful that they get to experience that. And I don't try to live through them. I mean, they're good at what they do, but I'm just grateful that they get a chance to take from their sports and their experiences, much like I've been able to do.
Absolutely. And let's move then to right after your playing days. Obviously, a part of the Hawks ownership group since 2015.
Yeah,
I think. How has that been? Is it did you see yourself going into that sort of role, and how is it being on the other side of things?
Yeah, so I was fortunate. I retired in 2013. We bought the Hawks. Tony Ressler is our managing partner. I'm vice chairman of our ownership group. I didn't wake up one day and say I want to own a team. I mean, I was thinking about this my first year in the NBA, and I signed a big contract. And Bill Davidson, who was then the owner of the Detroit Pistons, has passed away a long time ago. But I'm thinking, like, this guy's paying me all this money. I want to understand what he does, and I want to one day hopefully be in a position where I can participate on the ownership side. So I didn't know how it would happen. I didn't know when it would happen, but I really kind of believed it would happen. So planting that seed and thinking about it and cultivating relationships and, 20 years later, 2015, the opportunity presented itself and we won the bid. And at the time, it was the second largest purchase price for an NBA franchise, $700 million. But it's been incredible. It's been hard. We came in, we've added value. We improved our infrastructure. We did our arena. A state-of-the-art practice facility. We had to clean some things up internally, but it's rewarding. It's fun. It's incredibly hard. It's interesting as an athlete. Whether you're playing or not, you're on the bench, you're part of the team. You can have an impact, and you can, hey, I see something going on. You can talk to your teammates or whatever the case may be. Sometimes during the game as an owner, you can't really do anything, and so you feel like a glorified cheerleader, and but it's fun. It's fun, and I'm hopeful. I'm confident that someday we're gonna hoist a trophy and be a champion in Atlanta. That's the goal. That's the dream. But it's been everything I could have imagined and more. And business is good. The business keeps thriving, and we have a footprint, the NBA, all over the globe, and we have great young players in our league, and so it's fun to participate on this side.
Yeah, I didn't know 750 was the number. You say business is good. Business is real good.
Yeah, no, valuations they keep going north.
With the teams that were
I
recently.
was where I thought we might have been paying too much at the time, and now it looks pretty good. So I think obviously you want to be sound with your business principles, but it's fun. It's fun. It's hard. Everybody's gunning for the same thing, but I think it's if you can't play, you can't coach, and you're fortunate to be on this as a governor. There's nothing better.
Nice. Yeah, you mentioned being a governor. Can you talk about kind of the way that I'm sure you're somewhat involved with the draft talks and when you're evaluating, or not really evaluating, but thinking about guys at the next level? What kind of advice would you put on obviously guys in our program, but any college basketball players that want to make it to the next level? What kind of things can they do to separate themselves, and what kind of things should they be thinking about that can help them get there?
Yeah, I think the basketball operations departments for all of these NBA teams are very sophisticated, and they know everyone. Yeah. They know what guys can do before they arrive on campus, and so I do think that obviously talent is important, but what kind of person, what kind of character, are you a winner? And what I mean by that is not necessarily winning games, but do you have enthusiasm? Are you a good teammate? Are you paying attention during timeouts? Like all that stuff. That's why scouts come and watch in person. Mm-hmm. You watch on TV, it's hard. You only can see what the screen shows you. But when you're in person, you take it all in. And how do they interact with the coach? All of a sudden, there's some adversity. What's the body language like? all of that, I think, plays a role in how you evaluate someone in a game setting. And so you're constantly being watched. You can control the things you can control: your attitude, your energy, your enthusiasm. You can't always make every shot, but how are you as a teammate? Because at the end of the day, you want to have character. You don't want characters.
Yeah.
And so I think that goes a long, long way. You also got to be able to, you can have character and energy and enthusiasm and not be any good. But I think those are qualities that I know our scouts are looking for and are important to most teams.
Absolutely. Last question about the NBA. We had Ninth Wonder in here last week, and he talked a ton about how just how prevalent Duke is and the Brotherhood is in throughout the NBA. And I know you were just here with Adam Silver and both, Coach K, who's now working with the NBA as well. Can you talk about just how widespread Duke is and how that's affected your career at all?
Yeah, I think the Duke tentacles, the it's just vast. I mean, in terms of, not just Duke basketball, but Duke in general, in the game of basketball. It's incredible. So many former players are coaching, and either in college or coaching in the NBA. Quinn Snyder, former Duke player, is a head coach in Atlanta. I talked to Elton Brand just 2 days ago. He's the general manager with the Philadelphia Sixers. It's almost shocking when you really take a look at it and see so many Duke people who are in and around the game, and there are in leadership positions in basketball. And so I think it's a credit to the Brotherhood. I mean, obviously you have to give a shout out to Coach K, who really kind of started this whole thing. But I think there's a respect for this program, a respect for the excellence that it's embodied for so many years, and it still embodies to this day, and will continue to embody it, as we go forward. I think people who are in and around the game, who are decision makers, want people who have a perspective, who've been around and have been associated with success. And Duke kind of checks all the boxes in that way. So it's great. It's great. You think of the Brotherhood. I mean, the Brotherhood is here. It's on campus. But it's definitely in the NBA. Yeah. And I can say that, and it'd be an interesting exercise to go and look at every team. And somewhere on that team, whether on the roster, coaching staff, front office, there's someone with a Duke connection. And so that's powerful. And I only think that will continue. I think we'll continue to take over the world. No, I'm joking. But we'll continue to just, have an impact on the game of basketball. And it's pretty magical, pretty special.
Yeah, 100%. If we quickly move into your other career now, can we talk about your broadcasting career?
Yeah.
How did you get into it, and how has it been?
It's been great. How I got into it, I'm not even sure how I got into it. It was not something that I ever thought about. My last year with the Clippers, the folks at Turner reached out to me at the end of the year and wanted to bring back NBA Inside Stuff.
Yeah.
And wanted me to be a co-host, be the Ahmad Rashad. And so it got me thinking, and that was sort of when I first started thinking about, broadcasting. So I retired and transitioned into doing that, and started doing some studio work on NBA TV. I know after my first year, I was asked if I wanted to call games. I absolutely did not want to do that. I was deathly afraid of the idea of calling games. But eventually I relented, and I'll tell you, there's nothing better than calling games. Really? I mean, it is the best. You're the best seat in the house, except in Cameron, where you're way up in the bird's nest. Although that's a good seat too. And I did my first college game a Duke game.
Really?
So yeah, it was Duke, 2015, Duke versus Notre Dame, with Bill Raftery and Ian Eagle, who are now my broadcast partners with the Final Four because Jim Nantz has stepped down and Ian Eagle has stepped in. But to be able to have this sort of responsibility of explaining the game, sort of painting the picture to the fans, injecting humor, personality, sharing your own experiences. There's nothing better. And it's almost like, it's almost criminal to get paid to do that because you're going to sit around and watch the games anyway with your friends and talk about what's happening. And essentially that's what you're doing. But yeah, I look forward to the NBA season. I get a chance to kind of helicopter in, at the best time of the year in March and have this awesome responsibility covering March Madness and calling the Final Four. And, it's just fun. I mean, there's nothing more to say about it than that. It's fun. It can be grueling at times because it's, I shouldn't complain. I mean, I call one game a week, so there's nothing grueling about that. But it's a long season, the NBA season. Yeah. But it's fun. Like I said, I enjoy it, and I never thought I'd be a broadcaster. Yeah. But to be able to explain, dissect, analyze, criticize, have fun on camera, there's nothing better.
Yeah. You mentioned the Final Fours. Obviously, I have here that your first one was in 2015.
Yep.
With Jim Nantz. So it was a Duke win at the Final Four. Any big memories of that?
Yeah, I mean, it was crazy. My first Final Four, I'm working with Jim Nantz, who Jim's first Final Four that he called was my first as a player in '91. Wow. And then, of course, to have Duke on that run and Duke win, you try to be impartial, particularly when you're doing a Duke game, and so, I try to, on one hand, embrace the fact that I went to Duke. I'm not going to act like I didn't play at Duke. I'm going to say, tell stories and things of that nature, but you try to, call it down the middle. You want to be objective and be fair to both teams. But when there was a moment in that 2015 game, like at the end, I'm like, oh my God, we're going to win. And it was like, and at that moment, like, you take off your mask, your broadcaster mask, and now you're the Brotherhood, you're a fan. And so I didn't say anything. I just kept to myself. But that was that moment. And there was another moment as a broadcaster. I know this wasn't your question, but there was another moment that was almost surreal, and it was when Duke played. I was talking earlier about the game, but when Duke played UCF, 2019, Zion and RJ, and I called that game, and it was just one of the incredible games. Mm-hmm. And I've never told anybody this, but and so UCF, played lights out. And as coach would say, was worthy of winning. Duke won. And at the end of the game, they meet to shake hands, the coaches, and Johnny Dawkins and Coach K. And I'm sitting right there at half court. And like literally, I started to get emotional, because the love I had for Johnny and like knowing that he kind of helped set this thing and start this thing and get it going. And then obviously Coach K, like I took my headset off and I had to like just gather my thoughts because that image of those two coming together in this game that was just absolutely a great game and both teams deserving to win. Those were the two moments. Oh, there's one more moment. Funny story. So 2018, these are the three moments where I got out of character and they all were Duke games. So 2018, I put this in my book, so forgive me if you've read the book, you're going to hear the story. But the Hall of Fame announcement.
Okay, yeah.
So I was a finalist. It was my first year being eligible. And I was under the impression that they were going to call me on the Sunday that Duke played Kansas in the regional tournament in Omaha, Nebraska. And it was Grayson Allen, Marvin Bagley, Wendell Carter, that team, Gary Trent Jr. And so they were supposed to call that day on Sunday. I was under the impression they were going to call, and they were going to let you know if you made it or if you didn't make it. And so I'm like, all day, like I'm nervous. And, I'm already nervous because I'm calling a Duke game. But then now I'm doubly nervous because I'm waiting for this Hall of Fame call. And so, we get to the arena, and Nance is like, did they call yet? And I'm like, no. And I'm like, oh, well, if they call during the game, just remove yourself and take the call. And so I'm like, all right, fine. And after the game, I'm flying to meet my family in the Caribbean. So, like, there's a window. Like, if I don't hear from them by, 6 o'clock Eastern time, then I'm going to miss the call. So we're in the first half of the game, and the phone rings, and I don't recognize the number. And so I push back from the table. I take my headset off, and I'm talking, and Duke and Kansas are going back and forth. And it's like, it's, I don't know, it's some, what do you call it?
Marketer?
Yeah, some marketing call or whatever. And so we get back, and they're like, they're doing this. And I'm like, no. And they're looking at me, and we're calling the game. We're, multitasking. And so halftime comes, and I called John DeLeva, who was supposed to make the call. And I said, hey, man, like I'm waiting, man. Like, you got to let me know. He said, no, the call's scheduled for Wednesday. And so, okay. So that moment I could just relax and get lost in the game as a broadcaster. But those were the three moments where kind of, you get distracted for different reasons. And but you'd be great. You should call games after you have a long pro career. You should get into broadcasting.
Yeah, we'll see. Doesn't sound like a bad gig.
Yeah, it's not bad at all.
Last question I had about broadcasting. You mentioned some, being some stressful moments. Interested to hear if these were stressful, fun, or what it was like. You were on the mic for both Coach K's last ride and Jim Nance's. What was that like? Was it fun to see that? Was it stressful?
Yeah, I mean, it was back-to-back years. You think about it. I mean, Coach K, his last game, and then, Jim Nance. The Duke game and then losing, to Carolina of all teams. Yeah. But, knowing it, like it was it. Like that was hard. Like the finality of it all. You felt or you wanted to believe that, you'd ride off into the sunset with a national championship. And then I had to go, on the studio desk with Kenny Smith in Barkley, and I'm going to hear Kenny talk about, North Carolina. So I was dreading that as well. But, it was really, for me, I graduated in 94, and for almost 30 years, like my former coach is still here. And that was sort of the common denominator for a number of us. And then, now he's walking away, and so that was a surreal moment, and that was a hard moment. Jim Nance, similar. We knew he was going to walk away. Jim has been so much like Coach K. Both of them have been so important, I think, to the growth of college basketball. Jim was sort of the narrator, the steward of the tournament. His voice is all over it. He's presented it. He's done it masterfully, and the success and the notoriety and just how March Madness has taken over for 3 weeks. Jim has played a huge role in that, and he's been, just an incredible friend, a mentor. I thank him and sometimes blame him. He got me into golf, and so I go through the misery of playing golf. Because of Jim, but not just learning from one of the icons in broadcasting. And, it was just an absolute privilege. He's as authentic and as pure as he appears. So to have sort of two icons that had, an incredible impact on my life and my career or careers, to have both of them go out. It was a sad day personally, and I think a sad day for college basketball, But also, you get to a point in life where it's time, but no, that was, both were tough. And, And then, Sean McManus, who's president of CBS and has, been in that position for a number of years, and a Duke graduate.
Yeah.
He's stepping down after this Final Four, actually after this Masters, which is right after the Final Four. So a lot of change, which is inevitable, but certainly, that's the only constant in life.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we've taken up a ton of your time already. I know you have a packed weekend ahead. We're going to finish, if it's all right with you, with a quick 5 questions of trivia.
Okay,
which we do at the end of every episode here.
Okay.
So I'm excited to get you.
I got to know this. Like, I saw you had the freshman 4 on. I was surprised that
We had a stud in the freshman 4. Sean Stewart carried. We tried to split them up 2 and 2, and we should have had Sean go against the other 3 because he.
I brainwashed Sean from the time he was 7, so he better know. He better win Duke trivia.
Yeah. Okay, question 1. Can you name the past 3 college basketball programs to win back-to-back national titles?
The past 3?
3 programs.
Florida, Duke, UCLA.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
There we go. Off to a hot start. Number 2. 6 different Blue Devils have been named National Defensive Player of the Year. Can you name 3?
Yeah. Tommy Amaker, Shane Battier, Sheldon Williams.
You want to keep going? You don't have to.
No, I mean me. I got one too. I played both sides of the ball. I don't know who else. Sheldon, Shane, Tommy. Did Wojo get one?
Wojo has one?
Yeah, Wojo. Yeah.
That's all. Oh, you're missing one.
Missing one. I don't know who did.
Billy King.
Oh yeah, Bill. I got it. Billy King. Yeah, he's from my hometown. Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Billy King.
2 for 2 though.
Okay.
Number 3. You were a do-it-all stat sheet stuffer. What was your stat line in the 1992 national title game? If possible, you have to name points, boards, assists, rebounds, and blocks.
5 steals. I know I had, I think 5 steals, 7. I know I had like a record of most steals in a. I get those those obscure records like no one thinks about. I don't know. Did I have 20 points that game?
I have 18 points.
18 points.
Double-digit boards, just barely.
10?
10.
Okay. I wasn't passing that game, so I don't think I had a lot of assists.
5 assists.
Oh, 5 assists. Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. And you know what's funny? Okay, go ahead. I have a funny story about that. I won't get into it. I've talked too much.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I was coming off the bench during that tournament run. Mm-hmm. And I know I talked about buying into the team, but I was a little salty about that. So long story short, all right, we can edit this and put it in somewhere. But we lost to Carolina. We were undefeated. We lose at Carolina in 92. Bobby breaks his foot, 5th metatarsal. I play point guard. I move over to point guard. Tony Lang, who was my roommate, we're both sophomores, he starts. So we go maybe 4 and 5, maybe 5 and 6, or excuse me, 5 out of 6 when Bobby's out. He comes back. Christian and Cherokee get into it in practice. Christian throws Cherokee. He lands on my ankle. I sprain my ankle. So now, as Bobby's coming back, I'm hurt. And so by the time I get ready to come back, Tony has played about 10 games.
Yeah.
And now I'm getting ready to come back, the last game of the season against Carolina. And was it the last game? Yeah, I guess maybe it was close. Maybe it was 8, 9 games. And coach wants to bring me off the bench. And so now I'm like, hold up. I got to come off the bench? Like, I'm kind of salty about that. So one of the things we did back then was, this goes against everything I said earlier about buying into the team. But, I was 19. So the guys who were on the bench would stand at the start of the game until we scored. I don't know if guys still do that now, but they would all stand, and then until Duke scored, then you sit down. So I'm on the bench, and I'm sitting next to Tommy Amaker, who's the assistant coach. And everybody's standing, but I'm sitting. And Tommy says, "You're not going to stand?" I said, I'm not a bench guy. And, and so that was my protest. And so fast forward, we beat Indiana in the semifinals. Brian Davis, who was a senior on the team, he got hurt and was unable to play in the championship game. Mm-hmm. And so, we didn't have social media back then. You had the newspaper. And I remember the Minnesota paper, wake up the morning of the game, I go to the door, and there's a paper there, maybe the Minnesota Tribune. I can't remember what publication. And you open up the paper in the sports section, and they have the matchups and they rate the matchups for the game.
Yeah.
So, coach versus coach, and then you had like Jalen Rose versus Bobby Hurley, and so they had me versus Ray Jackson, and they gave the nod to Ray Jackson, and they're like, oh, because Grant Hill is a bench guy.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, okay, so I'm a bench guy. Now, meanwhile, I'm an All-American that year, but I'm a bench guy. And so I was like, I had a chip on my shoulder. I was mad because I was a bench guy, and they gave the advantage to Ray Jackson. So anyway, just a little story. Anyway, I don't know why I went there,
Yeah.
but
In your defense,
clearly I still need some help. I'm still a little bitter about that, but we won,
Yeah.
and I bought in, so it all worked out.
In your defense, that's a tough way to get hurt and then be expected to win your role back if you're hurt that way in practice.
Yeah, I mean, it happens, but you know what? We won.
Yeah.
And the lesson is sometimes, you have to make sacrifices in order to win. We needed Tony. Tony, if he went back to the bench, maybe he wasn't going to be as productive. And so sometimes you have to get over yourself in order to have success. And so that was a valuable lesson for me as I look back at it. In the moment, it was hard because you're young, you're juvenile, you're slightly immature, but that's what it takes sometimes. Like I said, whatever it takes to win, you got to be willing to do.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay, number 4 here. Who did the 1996 U.S. Olympic basketball team defeat in the elimination rounds on the way to gold?
I have no idea.
The elimination round. Okay, that's pretty early. So
No, the elimination is the last, like quarters, semis, finals. Is that right? So was Lithuania in there?
not Lithuania. You have
Okay, no. Oh man, this is not a Duke question. This is
you were on the team.
but it's not a Duke trivia
But
question.
you
I thought we were
you
doing a
played in
Duke-
the games.
Okay, yeah, all right. Okay, hold on. The last game was against.
You just need to get one to get the answer correct.
It was actually a closer game than expected. But wasn't Serbia? It was Lithuania. Was it Yugoslavia?
Yugoslavia.
Yugoslavia.
Yes.
That's right. There you go.
There we go.
All right,
The other
3 for
two-
3, right? 4 for 4.
That's 4 for 4.
Okay, all
The
right.
other two were Brazil and Australia.
Brazil and Australia.
And then a bonus question here is who was the leading scorer on the 1996 team?
That's a good question.
Or the guy that seemingly got drug tested the most?
Was it Carl Malone? Oh no.
Because
Okay,
you said
okay.
the highest score.
Man, that's a good one. It wasn't Barkley, it wasn't Malone, it wasn't Scotty. Could it have been Mitch Richmond?
It was Charles Barkley.
It's Barkley. Okay.
Number 5 here. What is the most watched basketball game since 1980, NBA or college?
It was one of the Final Fours. It was Duke, Wisconsin, right?
Earlier, you played in it.
Oh, wait. Since when?
Since 1980.
Oh, since 1980. Oh, 92, right?
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Remember they
Partial credit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
It's 30 plus million?
34.3 million Duke versus Michigan, 1992. So that's right up there. That's 5 for 5.
You're very kind.
I have a bonus question here that's a lyric, if you want to go with this.
Oh, so here's the running joke in my family. I don't know the words to any songs, so I just want to preface
Okay.
the question.
I'm gonna do my best job
Or the
with this too. So the first verse is all I hear is raindrops falling on the rooftop. Ooh baby, tell me why'd you have to go? 'Cause this pain I feel, it won't go away. And today I'm officially missing you. I thought that from this headache I could escape.
Thought from this. Okay.
And I'm not sure if I'm
Say
not
that-
sure if
no,
I'm
no,
that
no.
like
Say
on
that line
cadence.
again. Say that line. I know the
could
melody,
probably-
but say the line again.
I don't know the melody, so
Just say
that's my fault.
I thought from. Wait,
And I thought from this heartache I could escape.
I could escape the pain. I thought from this heartache I could escape.
The next line is, but I fronted long
But I
enough.
fronted long enough to know there ain't no way.
Yep.
Officially
And today, I'm officially missing you is that last line.
missing you, yes.
6 for 6.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. You know what? You're a good host, man. You know what? I appreciate that. Yeah, 6 for 6.
All right. Well, again, can't thank you enough for being on here. I know we've held you for a while, and you have a big weekend coming up. But we started this now a couple months ago just to do something fun for the fans and give back. And I'm super excited to get you on here and allow them the access to all your incredible insights and hear your story and experiences. So again, thanks for being here. Have fun the rest of the weekend. Give Jalen Blakes a couple hard questions on Saturday, and hope to see you around more this year.
Yeah, definitely. I'll be around, man.
Yes,
I appreciate you. Nice to meet you in person, and know that we'll be watching, supporting, and following you guys this year. And I look forward to covering you guys in Phoenix.
Yeah,
the Final Four.
That's the goal. We'll see you there.
Yeah.